Now, Fox 61 Weather Impact with Chief Meteorologist Rachel Frank.
Hi everyone, Fox 61 Chief Meteorologist Rachel Frank with your weather impact alert forecast. And we have two things that we are alerting you to tonight. The first thing is that it's going to be cold out there tonight and cold enough to kill plants. So there is a freeze warning in effect. But we also wanted to let you know about a coastal storm, a nor'easter, that will be coming in later this weekend. And more on that in just a moment. But first, this will be the coldest air that we have seen so far this season. Again, a freeze warning inland, a frost advisory for the immediate shoreline. What does this all mean? It means if you have some plants that you want to protect from damage due to the cold, you can bring those plants inside if they're potted. Maybe you have some mums, or you can try covering them with a light blanket. Sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't, depending on how cold the temperatures are. But always a good idea to just kind of pick those tomatoes, get them off of the vine, throw them in a paper bag, and hope that they ripen on your shelf, because again, tonight they will freeze. Also, it's a good idea to look at the hydrangeas, or if you have some dahlias that are still out, cut them, put them in some water, because again, they will die being left out tonight. Here's a look at those overnight lows right around the freezing point for the Hartford area. Below freezing, 29 in Windham Burr tomorrow morning. This will definitely come as a shock to the system, I think, for folks after having 80s, for 4 days this month. 32 for Groton and 31 for an overnight low temperature in Meriden. But it is beautiful as we head through tomorrow afternoon. Lots of sunshine. High temperatures will rebound into the low to mid 60s after a cool start to the day. And really quickly, I wanted to mention Saturday is also pleasant as well. This is definitely the pick of the weekend if you want to do stuff outside, because heading into Sunday, we'll see a rising likelihood for rain as this coastal storm, eventually turning into a nor'easter, gets closer to us. So a nor'easter doesn't always mean that we're getting snow. It just means that we've got a storm coming up the coast with northeasterly winds, and that's exactly what we will see. The exact impacts regarding how much rain and how severe the winds are going to determine, or get determined after we figure out the exact track. But this is one of those types of storms where we would get slammed if we were getting snow, but it is just rain. Luckily, it has been so dry for us lately that we are not expecting any river flooding with this. But the question is, how strong are the winds and what's the coastal flooding situation? Again, this will be for Sunday and Monday. So a coastal storm is likely at this point. You can call it a nor'easter if you want. Moderate coastal flooding may end up being an issue, which we'll talk more about in just a little bit. But I wanted to show you the reason why is because we'll have this persistent easterly and northeasterly wind that can pile water into Long Island Sound. So during the high tide cycle Sunday and Monday, that'll be an issue. Again, river flooding is unlikely due to the recent dry conditions, but we're trying to figure out how strong the winds are. And that's something that we really want to know this time of year, because we still have leaves on the trees, and that can make it easier for outages to occur. Right now, I think inland gusts are up to about 45 miles per hour, and gusts along the shoreline could be up around 50, 55 miles per hour. That could be enough for scattered outages, especially along the shoreline. Again, best case scenario, it's just kind of rainy and windy and, not very pleasant. But the worst case scenario is if those winds are a bit stronger, that outages will be more of a concern. A coastal flood watch is in effect for the immediate shoreline. Moderate flooding is possible per the National Weather Service, with storm surge flooding or water coming in anywhere from 1 to 2 feet above ground level during high tide. So that's what we'll be watching starting Sunday morning and continuing into Monday evening. Here's a look at your 7-day forecast. I did want to mention rain develops during the day on Sunday. First half of the day, probably not too bad, and some of you may even start off the day dry. As we head through the afternoon, the rain will pick up and the wind will pick up, and likely dealing with the most intense rain and wind for Sunday night into Monday morning. But we'll continue to see rain and gusty winds into Monday afternoon as well, and even some lingering showers into Tuesday too. Taking a look at your shoreline 7-day forecast, we've got 60s tomorrow. Saturday, increasing clouds with highs around 70 degrees, and then rain and wind developing for Sunday and for Monday before drying things out by the middle and end of next week.